Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All right. It is Friday, just ahead of Thomas Drance standing by. Our guest today brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club. Reminding they must like us. Oh, they really help us out a lot.
Nice people.
Reminding group organizers of 12 or more players that you, the group organizer, plays for free. To book your 2023 group outing, visit whistlergolf.com/groups. We are getting so much response in the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. We could do a 2-hour show on it.
Four hours.
But it's time now for Thomas Drance from the Athletic in the wake of the Canucks' fifth straight loss. Way to pump it up there, Rick. Fifth straight loss to start the season. Thomas, thanks for doing this. How are you, sir?
Well, I was doing well until Rick sigh. My goodness.
Yeah, I know.
I'd say you blew my lead in, but there's enough blown leads going around in this.
Very nice.
Very
nice.
Very good. What should bother Canuck fans the most, Thomas?
The big picture, right? I mean, at the end of the day, here's the thing about this team. I haven't seen enough from these 5 games that I'm sort of disabused of my notion that this team is, on a true talent basis, a fringe playoff team, right? Like, they lost 4 one-goal games. They went to overtime twice. Pettersson hits the post on the power play in both the game in Columbus and the game in Minnesota. Those go in. The Canucks are coming home, with a 2-3 record on the road trip, and people are talking about how PP1 got cooking and salvaged the road trip, right? Small margins ultimately determine that this team is winless. In this like sort of micro picture, how this team will fare this year, the Canucks are going to be better than this, right? They're not going to keep saving 65% of shots when shorthanded. The power play is not going to convert on 6.5% of their shots over the balance of the season. In fact, the Canucks are probably going to be, below average, but within screaming distance of average 4-on-5. Really good on the power play, and middling 5-on-5, which is what they've been on this road trip, with good goaltending. Like, Thatcher Demko hasn't yet stolen them a game. Mm-hmm. We all know he's going to get hot and steal them weeks worth of games. Even if it's not fair that he needs to be at a world-class level for this team to grind out a single win. About this team and their ability to meet everyone's relatively mediocre expectations of them to be an average team and sneak into the playoffs, I think they'll probably still be a challenger for that once they get cooking a little bit. The big picture, though, gentlemen, I need to talk about this. The big picture is This might be the best team that we ever see on JT Miller's newly signed extension, right? Like, at some point, this team's going to have to contend with the fact that they've got $15.26 million locked up into Oliver Ekman-Larsson and JT Miller, who are supporting pieces, frankly. I know what JT Miller did last year, but he's spent his entire career as a fringe top-line caliber forward, not a star player. The team signed him to be a star player off the back of a star season where he played as a first-line center for the first time in his career. And that's not looking good this far in. You've got a ton of bloated deals for aging guys. You've still got Elias Pettersson to extend, not after this season, but after next. That price tag's going to be big. It's just going to be so hard for this team at this point to capitalize off of, Hughes, Pettersson, and Demko's prime seasons. It didn't have to be this way. And the fact that you brought in new management and they sort of doubled down on this roster and made it even more difficult to untangle, like this team, which has to at least be fun with a win now posture for the 10th time in a row. You can just feel Canucks fans. Canucks fans are like yelling at this team to shape a plan that might bring a Stanley Cup to Vancouver. And instead they're like, oh, that's what you want. How about this? How about we try and sneak into a wildcard spot? No! Fans are sick of that. You can smell when an organization has no plan. That's what it smells like around the Canucks big picture. Right
we started the show off, or at least I did, talking about how this kind of seems the same. What are you seeing? Because a lot of the criticism is being leveled towards JT Miller, and you just talked about him. What are you seeing when you watch him on the ice?
Well, I mean, the problem is I'm not seeing a lot, right? Yeah. I mean, his line generated 1 scoring chance off of controlled entries last night, while the Wild first line of Kaprizov, Zuccarello, and Hartman generated 11. An 11-1 margin. But, as much as I don't think Miller's played particularly well. As much as I think, and as I said on the show, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I thought the contract was misguided. The right player perhaps for this team, but at the wrong time. You know, I don't want to get into that self-immolating Canadian media thing where you point to all the good players on the team and blame them for the club's lack of success. Here is the thing, gentlemen, right? Here's the thing. A good team puts people in a position to succeed. A bad team and a bad organization puts people in a position to fail. And as much as it's on Miller to some extent, you know, what the Canucks are asking of their forwards is through the roof, right? You think about how the Wild played as that game went along, where the Canucks would dump it out, you know, chip it out of their end, and you go D to D, and then there's this like nice layup target to Kaprizov or Zuccarello, who kept the puck in stride as they attack as a 5-man unit moving up the ice. The Canucks forwards never get that, right? Like everything they generate, they have to work for themselves because of how this team moves the puck from the back end out. You know, you either have to create your scoring chance by forcing the turnover on the forecheck, or you have to win the battle in the neutral zone and get attacking against the grain. Like this team is always skating uphill in terms of their ability to move the puck versus their opponents. And last night, the Wild struggled in that area, and the Canucks probably had their best game moving the puck as a 5-man group, and the distinction between the two still couldn't have been sharper. So, you know, I look at this and I see a lot of criticism directed at Miller. Where's Miller's like easy layup targets? Where's Miller having the opportunity to look a little faster than he is because he's receiving the puck in stride through the neutral zone? Like it's on him. He needs to be better. I don't want to take away from that, but like don't mistake his struggles as being solely about him, and certainly don't mistake this team's struggles as being solely about him. This team is struggling, and as a result, some of their best players, like everyone basically with the exception of Elias Pettersson and Bo Horvat, look like they're skating uphill all game long.
Thomas, do you see a bold move? Do you see a big trade? The coach's name's popping up already. What can be done here in the near future in your eyes in terms of a bold move if this keeps going?
Years of disciplined management to build up the prospect system that this organization has to rely on, find a reliable source of cheap labor, and manage your books with a level of discipline unheard of in this part of the country in the last decade by this organization. I mean, what you want to rearrange deck chairs? Like, are we talking bold in terms of rearranging deck chairs, in terms of, you know, finding a team that's willing to buy low on one of Vancouver's really good players? I mean, does that qualify as bold? Trading a young guy to a place he might actually get some opportunity. Does that qualify as bold? You know, the time for bold moves was this summer, frankly. I don't see the sort of move you could make that would significantly alter what this team can be this season at this point. No one's trading you a top 4 right-handed defenseman, right? No one's giving you a caddy for Quinn Hughes for free here. I mean, the bold move I want to see is this organization look like 4 or 5 years ahead, start planning to make that happen, and, you know, execute it with the level of discipline and intelligence that we see other organizations around this league operate with.
Okay, and quickly, would inserting Jack Rathbone, I know there are injuries on the blue line, would inserting Jack Rathbone into the Canucks lineup be considered a bold move at this point?
I mean, what's the harm, right? Like, oh, his defensive play's so bad, if we insert him into the lineup, we might blow a lead. Like, oh, if we insert him into the lineup, we might lose. Yeah, okay. Like, what? I mean, what's the harm? He might help this club address some of their issues in terms of the lack of push from the back end. It's worth seeing. It's long overdue that we get a chance to see it. I mean, this team's already used 8 defensemen, right? They're clearly trotting out Tucker Poolman at less than 100% health, or at least they did in that Columbus game. You know, Noah Juulsen's played. I mean, it's ridiculous, preposterous that he hasn't played yet. And now, you know, we don't know what Dermott's status is. Poolman is clearly a little bit hit and miss, right? Like day to day, obviously, as he works back from something undisclosed. And then you've got, and then you've got Stillman, who left the game last night. I mean, at some point, Rathbone just has to get in by process of elimination. They're running out of bodies. But yeah, I mean, here's the other thing that I'm annoyed with, right? You change management, and for a 3rd year in a row, we're talking early in the season, not just about the coach's job security, but also like, what are the incentives for the coach to play young players considering his lack of job security? Like this organization keeps putting everybody involved in it in these positions where, you know, their quality, their motives, everything is questioned all the time. This just isn't how good organizations run. Like, this isn't how good restaurants run, much less billion-dollar professional sports enterprises. It's baffling, baffling, maddening.
I thought for a second there we were going to see your breakfast. You okay?
It just makes me sick, Donnie.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. We'll end on that note. Have a great weekend, Thomas.
Thanks, boys. I'll try and keep it down.
Okay, good.
Adios, Thomas.